Hey fellow growers, it's Joe coming to you live from beautiful West Michigan. Get ready because today I'm about to unveil 5 crucial mistakes you cannot afford to make when it comes to growing tomato plants. Let's grow! The first critical mistake to avoid is neglecting to prune your tomato plants. Let's take a closer look at this one right here. Taking a closer look at this tomato plant, you notice right here, these leaves are touching the soil. This one too. And when these touch the soil, it's an invitation for soil-borne organisms to cause diseases. And these diseases can spread up the entire plant, compromising its health and productivity. Also, look how bushy this tomato plant is. When a plant is bushy like this, it lacks airflow, and we know that light and airflow are the enemies of disease. So let me show you another tomato plant I pruned up a little bit ago. So let's take a look at this tomato plant right here. This is actually a Sweet 100 plant. Let's take a look at this one. Look at this plant right here. I already pruned it up. Look at the bottom here. Nothing's in contact with the soil. Air can move in and out. Light can get in spots where you couldn't before. This is going to help the plant resist diseases, and it's more likely not to get any diseases because it's so far off the ground and growing vertical in this style. Okay, so coming back to this plant, again, you'll see that the lower leaves are in contact with the soil. I guess it's the mulch in this case, but it's not what we want. We want to promote this plant to be as disease-free as possible. So what we'll do is we'll remove those lower leaves because, as this plant grows and matures and it's flowering and these sun leaves get really large, they're going to block a lot of sunlight on the lower leaves and they're just going to get weak and brittle and they'll be more prone to diseases. Like, look at this plant already, it's starting to get yellow spots on it. So what we'll do is we'll prune those off and we'll promote this to grow up a single stem because that's the best way to grow indeterminate tomato plants. Okay, so right here between the main stem and the branch, this is a sucker, and basically a sucker is going to suck energy out of this plant. It will grow into basically another tomato plant, so you'll have like a tomato plant growing out of a tomato plant, and this will cause it to get really bushy. So we'll take all these suckers out first. So the first thing you want to do is remove these suckers. Sometimes you can just bend it and it'll come right out, but otherwise you have to cut them off. I'm just using some shears, garden shears. Here's another sucker right here. We'll take that one off. So it comes right off. And then see this one right down here. This comes right off. Then you cut off the lower sun leaves, just like that. So you do want some of these sun leaves because that will help soak up the sun. But these lower ones that are below the fruiting, you can just get rid of. Just like that. Now you see how much airflow can get through here now, and how much light can get in. That's going to help this plant tremendously. So let's go to my other 3 tomato plants I have over here. I still need to get these into the ground, but that's okay. I still need to prune them. So what I want to do is show you how easy this is to prune up. So the first thing you want to do is find the suckers. Like, this is a big sucker right here. I let this thing go too much. So let's go ahead and cut it off. You can see it's already blooming, or it's flowering already, but we don't want that. We want this thing to grow up a single stem. Here's another sucker, it's really big. So we'll just cut those right off, cut it off here. You do want some of these sun leaves. That will help this plant, but I mean, it's pretty much it. Here's a sucker here, and that's a tomato. So we're good on this one. So that was quick. So we'll go to this one now. More sun leaves, more suckers. We don't want that. We want a single stem. Cut these off. There's a sucker right there. Cut that off. There's another one. There's a sucker here. Get that off. Another sucker here. Get that one off. Another sucker right here. That's too big to snap off. It's okay. We can snip it. And there we go. That one's looking good. I'll go to my third one right here. Now, when these plants do get taller, about 4 or 5 inches tall, You do want to keep some of these suckers because, especially in even like a hotter climate where you get a lot of sun, they'll give some shade to like your tomatoes, especially like your beef steak tomatoes. They'll prevent sun scald by having some sun leaves. So look at that. That looks good. So yeah, that easy. All three done. Also, this is for the indeterminate tomato varieties. So this thing will get nice and tall, which will help you with an earlier harvest, more airflow, less disease issues, and you can pick the tomatoes like almost head level because this thing's gonna get really tall. And you can get tomatoes up until the very last frost with these varieties. Pretty cool. So this is a Roma tomato. This is a determinate variety. And for this plant, you don't want to remove all the suckers on this one, but you do want to clip some of the lower leaves like I did here. I pruned it up. I took off a lot of the suckers down here, but with this variety, it'll create one round of tomatoes, but by removing all the sun leaves in the bottom and the suckers, it'll create more airflow and less disease issues. The second crucial mistake you want to avoid when growing tomato plants is improper watering. Now, a lot of beginner gardeners are guilty of this. I am as well. So when you water your tomato plant, you want to make sure you don't get no water on the leaves. Tomato plants are really prone to diseases and fungal issues just from bad watering alone. So you want to avoid getting water on your leaves as much as possible. So what you want to do when you water your tomato plants is bring your hose or your water can right at the base of the plant. That way you avoid splashing any water on the leaves. Now you want to give it a good soak. Tomatoes don't like to be constantly watered with a light watering on just the surface of the soil. So you don't want the soil to be constantly wet. That will just increase the odds of root rot, and that's something we don't want. We also don't want the soil to become too dry because that'll make the plant weak and open to diseases and all other types of issues. So what you want to do on a year like this where the heat just doesn't stop coming in is putting down a good layer of mulch. Like right here, I already put some mulch down. These are Roma tomatoes. Having a nice mulch down will help retain the moisture in the soil. And also, you want a good draining soil. So having those two issues solved will prevent a lot of issues such as blossom end rot, which I am guilty of. So right here, I already have blossom end rot in this tomato. Technically, it stems from calcium deficiency in the soil, but with the high heat we've been having, it's putting a lot of stress on the tomato plant. So having a good draining soil with mulch will fix a lot of those blossom rot issues. So you're probably wondering, how often should I water my tomato plants? And I can't answer that without asking you a couple of questions. How old is your plant? What time of year is it? Is it growing tomatoes yet? It's like this plant right here, it's still kind of small, so I'm only gonna be out here watering it maybe once every 2 days. And as it grows and it starts fruiting more tomatoes, I'm gonna water it more. And as it grows bigger and bigger, I need more water. And then at hot days, the leaves will actually sweat water, so it need to be watered even more. So you kind of have to use your best judgment when you're watering it. And a good way to do that is come over here. Is you want to check the first 2 inches of the soil. So you just want to, if it feels like it's still wet, then yeah, don't water it. See, it's still moist. You don't need to water it yet. So that's the best general way to do it. Is just check the first 2 inches of the soil. If it's dry, water it. Still moist, don't water it. The third crucial mistake when growing tomato plants is not controlling the pest. Now, tomatoes' number one enemy is the hornworm. And I see group chats talking about these hornworms all the time. They're asking, what are these big, nasty green things? And these things can eat a plant up in one night. So you want to make sure you control these pests. What you want to do is come out and inspect your plants regularly. Look for any leaf bite marks or holes. And if you do, it's more likely a pest. And what you can do is actually plant some dill near your tomato plants. The hornworms will actually be attracted to the dill just as much as the tomato plants, and you can see the hornworms much easier than dill because their leaves are much smaller and finer. Once you confirm it's a hornworm issue, I suggest getting BT. This stuff works amazing. It's natural. It comes from soil bacteria. It works really well, and actually it'll help get rid of cabbage worms too. So you can put it on your cabbage too. So that's my suggestion, is get BT. Another pest issue is aphids and spider mites. We have a lot of spider mites around here in Michigan. So what they'll do is slowly kill your plants by spreading diseases amongst all your plants in your whole garden. And that's something you want to avoid. So what I would like to do is get neem oil and make sure you don't get this neem oil like I did. This is not 100% cold pressed neem oil, and that's what you want to get. And what that contains is the azoractid oil that's responsible for killing those pests. So what I like to do is I like to spray the neem oil in the evening hours because it does contain an oil, and with an oil you could burn the leaves in the sun. So you want to make sure you do it either early morning, but I would highly suggest doing it at night. That way it has time to absorb in the leaves and without the sun burning up your leaves. Also, neem oil helps with fungal issues as well, so it's a great overall spray. And just make sure you don't fall for buying this scam, because I mean it's still good, but the 100% cold pressed neem oil is what you want to look for. So what you want to do is mix dish soap in, and I'll put a teaspoon of neem oil in with a gallon of water. And what I'll do is I'll first spray like one set of leaves on one plant and let it sit for 24 hours. And if it didn't kill those leaves, then you should be good to go to spray the rest of the pest problem that you see. And yeah, because you don't want to kill all your plants in one night, because if you go around just spraying the whole garden with your first mixture, you might end up killing your whole plants. You'll be like, no, Joe said to spray my whole plants with this, and you don't want to do that. So first start off by just spraying one set of leaves and go from there. So to recap, when it comes to disease, you want to be on the lookout for infected leaves, and you want to remove those right away. Infected leaves come from wet leaves, not enough airflow, not enough light, and nasty pest. The fourth crucial mistake you do not want to make when growing tomato plants is not providing them with enough nutrition to grow and thrive. Healthy plants are less prone to infections and diseases if they're healthy. That's why when I transplant my tomato plants, I'll top dress them with an all-purpose fertilizer, and I'll sprinkle in some bone meal, and even I'll add some eggshell if I think they need extra calcium. Also, you don't want to fertilize with anything that's high in nitrogen, because what that will do is that will make the plant focus on its leaves and growing part. So you want to avoid high nitrogen fertilizer. That's why I use bone meal for the later stages of the plant's life, because I think that's just overall the best, because it'll focus on fruits and flowers and the roots. Also, when you give it bone meal and all-purpose fertilizer, and then when you water it, you're not only are you watering it, but you're also providing it with nutrients to be healthy and grow. The fifth crucial mistake you do not want to make when growing tomato plants is bad transplanting. If you want healthy plants with amazing yields, then you need to harden off your plants. So you don't want to buy your tomato plants from the greenhouse and plant them in the ground right away, because that will give them transplant shock or possibly stunt their growth or even possibly die. So the conditions of being inside of a greenhouse compared to outdoors: in the greenhouse, the humidity is perfect, the temperature is perfect, there's no wind, it's just a perfect environment for plants to thrive. So you want to slowly get them acclimated to being outside. And I suggest to do that is when you first get them, put them outside in a shady area for like 4 hours, and then bring them inside. And then the next day, maybe put them in the sun for like 2 hours. And then, slowly build it up over time. When you have them outside for over 24 hours, they should be hardened off and be ready to be transplanted into the ground. Well, that's today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got something out of it. I hope you learned something. If not, share it with a friend. Hopefully they can. The whole point of this video was to make sure your tomato plants don't die on you, and they grow and thrive all season long up into the very last frost. Thank you for watching again, and as always, let's grow together. Joe out. Making this video in the 90 to 95 degree heat has been brutal. I have been sweating so much. I think I have 2 of these shirts I had to change out. So don't wear black when it's 95 degrees out and long sleeve. It's been brutal. I had to put my phone in my freezer. It's been overheating from recording. That's crazy. Next time, make sure I wear a short sleeve shirt.